The Council's fatal vote. The massive chamber was silent. 1,000 alien species sat in their floating seats, all eyes focused on the giant hologram spinning in the center. The blue and green planet looked so peaceful, so harmless. None of them knew they were about to make the biggest mistake in galactic history. Today, announced Council Leader Zixithara, her 6 arms spreading wide, we vote on the Earth problem. Her voice echoed through the chamber like thunder. These humans have been sending signals into space for over 100 years. They know we exist. They are becoming too dangerous. The hologram changed, showing human cities and their primitive vehicles. Some aliens laughed at the sight of human cars and planes. To them, it looked like children playing with toys. Look at their weapons, mocked General Kresh, his scales glowing red with amusement. They still use chemical explosives. They fight with metal tubes that shoot tiny pieces of lead. The chamber erupted in laughter. My pet could defeat their entire army. Ambassador Vexhai from the warrior caste stood up. These humans are nothing special. We have conquered 1,000 worlds. We have weapons that can destroy planets. They have, what? Flying metal boxes? More laughter filled the air. But in the back corner, an old alien named Threshmore slowly stood up. His ancient voice was barely a whisper, but the chamber's technology made sure everyone heard him. Honored Council, he began, his 3 eyes dim with age. I have lived for 800 years. I have seen many species rise and fall. But these humans, we know nothing about their true nature. Zixithara's laugh was cold and sharp. What is there to know, old one? We have watched them for decades. They fight among themselves constantly. They poison their own planet. They are weak, divided, and foolish. But they survive, Threshmore said quietly. Their world is a death trap. Massive storms that could destroy our cities. Earthquakes that split continents. Volcanoes that block out their sun. Yet they thrive. They build their cities right next to these dangers. What kind of species does that? A stupid one, shouted someone from the crowd. More laughter echoed through the chamber. Threshmore shook his ancient head. Or a very dangerous one. Council Leader, I beg you. We should study them more, learn their ways before we act. Zixithara's patience was running thin. Enough. These humans are primitives. Their strongest weapons cannot even scratch our shields. Their fastest ships cannot escape our slowest patrol boats. They are insects, and it is time to step on them before they spread. She activated the voting system. Thousands of lights began to appear in the air above each seat. Green for yes, red for no. All in favor of immediate invasion of the human homeworld. Zixithara called out. The chamber filled with green light. It was almost blinding. Alien after alien voted yes, eager to claim their share of Earth's resources. They saw oceans of water, mountains of metal, and billions of slaves to work their mines. The counting system displayed the results in giant numbers that everyone could see. Votes for invasion, 847. Votes against, 12. The chamber exploded in cheers. Species that had been enemies for centuries suddenly embraced each other, united in their coming victory. They were already arguing over who would get which continents. It is decided, Zixithara announced, her voice booming over the celebration. The invasion fleet will launch immediately. General Kresh, you have full authority to use whatever force necessary. General Kresh's scales glowed brighter with excitement. Give me 1 solar cycle, Council Leader. These humans will be kneeling before us or they will be dead. As the aliens celebrated their easy victory, Threshmore quietly gathered his things and left the chamber. His aide, a younger alien named Pipka, followed him. Master, Pipka whispered, surely the Council is right. Humans seem so weak. Threshmore stopped walking and looked back at the chamber, where aliens were still celebrating. Young one, do you know what the most dangerous predator on my homeworld was? The great clawed beast? No, Threshmore said sadly. It was a tiny creature no bigger than your thumb. It looked harmless. Other animals ignored it. But when threatened, it released a poison that could kill 1,000 great clawed beasts. He paused and looked up at the stars through the chamber's great window. Sometimes, Pipka, the most dangerous enemies are the ones that look the weakest. And I greatly fear, that we have just awakened something terrible. In the distance, the invasion fleet was already powering up their engines. 1,000 warships prepared to travel to a small blue planet on the galaxy's edge. The ships were massive, powerful and filled with warriors eager for an easy fight. None of them knew they were sailing toward their doom. The vote was cast. The die was thrown, and somewhere in the cold darkness of space, Earth waited. First contact goes very wrong. 3 weeks had passed since the Council's vote. General Kresh stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Death's Crown, watching the blue planet grow larger on his screens. Behind him, 999 other warships waited in perfect formation, the largest invasion fleet in galactic history. "Sir," his communications officer announced, "we are now within range of the human homeworld. Shall I send the surrender message?" Kresh's scales glowed with satisfaction. "Yes, let these primitives know their time is over." The message was broadcast on all human frequencies. "Humans of Earth, you are surrounded. Your weapons are useless against us. Surrender now, and some of you may live as slaves. Resist, and we will turn your world to ash." On Earth, the message was received by every radio, television, and computer on the planet. In the United Nations building in New York, world leaders sat around an emergency table. President Chen of the World Defense Coalition stood up slowly. "Patch me through to their fleet," she said calmly. Back on the alien flagship, Kresh waited for Earth's terrified response. Surely they would beg for mercy, maybe offer him their most valuable resources. Instead, what came through the speakers made every alien on the bridge freeze. A human woman's voice, clear and strong. "Unknown alien fleet. This is President Chen of Earth. We have received your message. Our response is simple. Come and take it." The communication ended with a click. Kresh stared at his communications officer. What did she just say?" "I believe, sir, they just rejected our demands." "Rejected?" Kresh's voice rose higher. "They rejected us. Do they not understand what we are?" His tactical officer, a nervous creature with too many eyes, spoke up. "Sir, our sensors show human ships approaching. Small vessels, maybe 50 of them." Kresh laughed so hard his whole body shook. 50 ships? Against our 1,000? This will be over in minutes." He activated the fleet-wide communication. "All ships prepare to destroy the human vessels. Show them what real power looks like." The human ships were indeed small. They looked like metal boxes with engines strapped to the back. No elegant curves like alien vessels. No artistic design. Just brutal, functional shapes that seemed built for one purpose only. "Sir," the tactical officer said, confusion in his voice, "the human ships are not forming any battle formation we recognize. They're just charging straight at us." "Fools," Kresh muttered. "They don't even know how to fight properly." "Weapons online! Target the lead human vessel." The alien energy beams lit up space like deadly fireworks. They struck the human ships dead on. But instead of exploding, the human vessels just kept coming. Their armor was crude but thick. "Very thick, impossible," Kresh shouted. "How are they still flying?" That's when the first human ship did something no alien had ever seen in battle. Instead of trying to outmaneuver the alien vessel, it rammed straight into it. The human ship's reinforced nose crushed through the alien hull like a hammer through glass. "What are they doing?" screamed the tactical officer. More human ships slammed into alien vessels. Some exploded on impact, but they took the alien ships with them. Others used cutting tools to slice through hulls like they were opening cans. "They're not following any rules of space combat," Kresh yelled. "This is madness." But the real shock came when human soldiers started boarding alien ships. They didn't use sophisticated hacking or clever tricks. They just cut holes in the hulls and poured inside like water through a broken dam. Captain Voss of the human ship Defiance kicked down an alien bulkhead and stepped into the enemy bridge. His combat armor was scratched and dented, but his eyes were burning with determination. "Surprise," he said, pointing his weapon at the terrified alien captain. Across the battlefield, the same scene played out on dozens of ships. Humans fought like they had nothing to lose. They used tools as weapons, turned ship parts into bombs, and showed a level of creativity and violence that shocked the aliens. "Sir," the communications officer called to Kresh. "Captain Yekstar is reporting that humans have taken his engine room. Captain Nixiswe says they've turned his own weapons against him." "Sir, they're fighting like what?" Kresh demanded. "Like wild animals, sir, but smart ones. The battle lasted 6 hours. When it ended, the humans had destroyed or captured nearly 200 alien ships. But what shook Kresh the most wasn't the losses. It was how the humans fought. They showed no fear. When cornered, they smiled. When outnumbered, they laughed. When facing impossible odds, they charged anyway. It was like fighting a species that didn't understand the concept of giving up. "Status report," Kresh said quietly, his scales now dim with worry. "We have 800 ships remaining, sir. The humans have retreated to their homeworld." Kresh nodded, but his mind was racing. They had won the first battle, but it didn't feel like victory. It felt like they had just poked a sleeping monster with a very small stick. "Sir," the communications officer said nervously, "we're receiving another message from Earth." "Put it through." President Chen's voice filled the bridge again, but this time she wasn't alone. Thousands of human voices spoke together, creating a sound that sent chills through every alien spine. "That was just our hello. If you want to see our goodbye, come closer." As the alien fleet regrouped, deep space sensors began picking up something that made Kresh's blood run cold. More human ships were emerging from behind Earth's moon. Hundreds of them. They had been waiting, watching, learning. The aliens had won the first battle, but somehow, it felt like they had just lost the war. And somewhere in the depths of space, old Threshmore's warning echoed like a prophecy. "We have just awakened something terrible." Earth was no longer hiding. The humans were coming, Earth's hidden strength. General Kresh paced his bridge like a caged predator. 2 days had passed since the first battle, and he still couldn't understand what had happened. His fleet had won, but his commanders looked at him with fear in their eyes. "Sir," his intelligence officer reported, "we've analyzed the human ships. The technology." "It doesn't make sense. What do you mean?" Kresh demanded. "The energy shields, the hull plating, even their weapon systems." "Sir, they're using our technology, but modified." Kresh's scales went cold. "That's impossible. Humans have never left their solar system. How could they have our technology?" What General Kresh didn't know was happening 50 feet below the surface of Earth. In a massive underground bunker beneath the mountains of Colorado, Admiral Sarah Martinez stood before a wall of screens showing the alien fleet. "Phase 1 complete," she announced to her staff. "The aliens think they know what we're capable of. Time to show them how wrong they are." Her second-in-command, Colonel James Park, stepped forward. "Admiral, are you sure about this? If we reveal our true capabilities now, James," Admiral Martinez turned to face him, "we've been preparing for this moment for 37 years. Ever since the Roswell incident gave us our first real alien technology." She walked to a massive vault door and placed her hand on the scanner. The door opened with a deep rumble, revealing something that would have shocked the aliens above. Rows and rows of alien spacecraft, perfectly preserved and restored. 1947, 1952, 1961, 1978, 1995, she said, pointing to different ships. "Every time they crashed on our world, we learned. Every time they visited, we watched. And every time they left technology behind, we improved it." Colonel Park nodded grimly. "The aliens have been studying us for decades. They just never realized we were studying them back." In another part of the bunker, Dr. Elena Vasquez stood before her greatest creation. It looked like an alien energy cannon, but the modifications were purely human. Where aliens built for efficiency, humans had built for raw power. 60 years of reverse engineering, she said to her team. "We took their elegant designs and made them brutal. They build weapons to disable. We build weapons to destroy." Above ground, human cities looked normal to alien scanners. But beneath every major population center, similar bunkers stretched for miles. Factories that had been secretly building human versions of alien technology for decades. Weapons that looked familiar to aliens but packed surprises they couldn't imagine. General Kresh was about to learn this the hard way. "Sir," his communications officer shouted. "Massive energy readings from the human planet. Something is powering up." "What kind of energy?" Kresh demanded. It's our technology, sir. But the power levels are off the charts." That's when the first human installation revealed itself. What looked like a small mountain suddenly split open, revealing a cannon the size of a building. But this wasn't just any cannon. The aliens recognized the basic design as their own plasma technology, but something was very wrong. Impossible, whispered Kresh. That's a Zephyrian Class 9 plasma cannon, but it's massive, the weapon fired. The beam that emerged was not the precise, controlled energy blast that alien technology produced. It was a roaring torrent of raw power that could melt through an entire battleship in seconds. 3 alien vessels disappeared in the first shot. All ships, evasive maneuvers. Kresh screamed, but more mountains were opening. More cannons were emerging, and every single one was firing alien technology that had been rebuilt with human engineering. Where aliens valued precision, humans had chosen power. Where aliens built for elegance, humans had built for destruction. "Sir," the tactical officer yelled, "human fighters incoming." But these weren't the crude metal boxes from the first battle. These ships moved with the grace of alien technology, but hit with the force of human weapons. They were faster than any human ship should be, more maneuverable than any alien fighter, and carried enough firepower to level cities. Captain Rexton of the alien ship Star Piercer watched in horror as a human fighter did something that violated every law of physics he understood. It stopped in mid-space, rotated 90 degrees, and fired in 3 directions at once. "How are they moving like that?" he screamed into his communicator. The answer came from Admiral Martinez's voice, broadcast on all alien frequencies. "You want to know how we learned to fight you? You taught us. Every crashed ship, every failed invasion, every time you thought we were too primitive to notice, we were learning." In the depths of space, the human fleet that had been hiding behind Earth's moon began to move. But these ships were different from anything the aliens had seen. They looked like alien vessels but moved like predators. They had the sleek lines of advanced technology, but the aggressive angles of human design. "We took your gravity drives," Admiral Martinez continued, "and made them faster. We took your energy shields and made them stronger. We took your plasma weapons and made them deadlier." The alien fleet found itself caught between the planet-based weapons below and the human fleet above. But what terrified them most wasn't the technology. It was how the humans used it. Where aliens fought with formation and discipline, humans fought like a pack of wolves. They coordinated perfectly but unpredictably. They used every dirty trick, every unfair advantage, every brutal tactic that civilized species had abandoned long ago. "Sir," Kresh's communications officer said quietly, "we're receiving surrender demands from the humans." "What?" The voice that came through the speakers was calm, almost friendly. "Alien fleet, this is Admiral Martinez. You have exactly 1 hour to leave our solar system. After that, we're going to show you what we learned from studying your weapons technology for the past 70 years. Kresh's pride flared. "Never. We are the Galactic Council. We don't surrender to primitives." "Primitives?" Admiral Martinez laughed. "General, we put your technology in our museums. We've been building better versions in our basements. The only primitive thing here is your understanding of who you're fighting." That's when the real demonstration began. Human ships began targeting alien vessels with weapons that the aliens had invented but could no longer recognize. Plasma beams that burned through shields like paper, gravity bombs that crushed ships into metal balls, energy nets that disabled entire squadrons at once. But the worst part for the aliens wasn't losing. It was realizing that humans had been holding back in the first battle. They had been testing alien capabilities while hiding their own. "Sir," the tactical officer said, his voice shaking, "we've lost 400 ships. Should we retreat?" General Kresh looked at the screens showing the carnage. His great invasion fleet was being torn apart by weapons based on his own technology, but improved by minds that thought differently than any species in the galaxy. "No," he said grimly. "Signal the council. Tell them to send everything. These humans, they're not what we thought they were." As alien distress signals raced toward the galactic core, Admiral Martinez stood in her bunker, watching the battle through her screens. Her aide approached cautiously. "Admiral," he said, "don't you think we're revealing too much too soon?" Admiral Martinez smiled grimly. "Colonel, they voted to invade our world. They threatened our families, our children." She turned to look at him, and her eyes were hard as steel. "We're not just defending Earth anymore. We're teaching the galaxy a lesson they'll never forget. In the depths of space, more human ships were emerging from hidden bases on asteroids, moons, and space stations that aliens had never detected. The humans hadn't just been studying alien technology, they had been preparing for war. The human war machine awakens. The emergency session of the Galactic Council was chaos. Representatives from 1,000 worlds shouted over each other as General Kresh's report played on the main screen. Images of burning alien ships and impossible human weapons filled the chamber. "This is madness," screamed Ambassador Veltar. "How can primitives destroy half our invasion fleet?" Council Leader Zixthara slammed her staff against the floor. "General Kresh, explain to me how you lost 400 ships to a species that barely has spaceflight." Kresh's image flickered on the screen, his scales dim with exhaustion. "Council Leader, these humans, they don't fight like any species we've encountered. They have no honor code, no rules of war. They fight like—" He paused, searching for words, "like they're protecting their young." What the Council didn't understand was that Kresh was exactly right. On Earth, something incredible was happening, something that no alien species had ever witnessed. In New York, 8-year-old Emma Chen stood in her school's workshop, carefully assembling components for armor plating. Her teacher, Mrs. Rodriguez, showed the children how to weld metal pieces together. "Remember, kids," Mrs. Rodriguez said gently, "every piece you make helps protect our soldiers fighting in space." In Tokyo, 70-year-old Hiroshi Tanaka sat with other elderly citizens, their experienced hands crafting precision circuits for human weapon systems. Their fingers moved with the skill of decades, building technology that would keep their grandchildren safe. "In my youth, I built cars," Hiroshi said to his neighbor. "Now I build hope." This was what the aliens couldn't understand. When humans went to war, everyone became a warrior. Not just the soldiers, but the farmers who grew food, the children who assembled parts, the elderly who shared their knowledge. An entire species had become a single military unit. Admiral Martinez stood in the Global Defense Center, watching reports pour in from around the world. Every human settlement, from the largest cities to the smallest villages, had transformed into part of the war machine. "Status report," she called out. "Admiral," Colonel Park replied. "Weapon production is up 300%. Food production has been streamlined for maximum efficiency. Even our entertainment industry has switched to making training programs for new pilots." "And morale?" Colonel Park smiled. "Ma'am, we've never been more united. Every human on Earth knows what's at stake." In space, General Kresh was learning this lesson the hard way. His remaining fleet tried to establish a blockade around Earth, but the humans kept surprising him. "Sir," his communications officer called out, "we're detecting launches from the human planet." "Hundreds of them." "More warships?" Kresh asked wearily. "No, sir. They appear to be cargo vessels, but they're moving toward our position at high speed." What Kresh saw next defied all military logic. The approaching ships weren't warships. They were converted civilian vessels, old cargo haulers, passenger ships, even mining craft. But each one had been fitted with weapons and armor. "Are they insane?" Kresh muttered. "They're sending civilians against a military fleet." But as the ships got closer, Kresh realized his mistake. These weren't civilians playing soldier. These were humans who had transformed everything they owned into weapons of war. The cargo ship's second chance had been a grain hauler for 30 years. Now it carried experimental missiles built by schoolchildren and guided by retired engineers. Its captain, Maria Santos, had hauled wheat across Earth's oceans. Today, she was hauling death to alien invaders. "This is Captain Santos to all vessels," she broadcast. "Remember, we're not just fighting for Earth. We're fighting for the right to exist. Show them what happens when you threaten a human's home." The converted civilian fleet hit the alien blockade like a hammer. Ships that should have been easy targets moved with the unpredictability of desperate humans. A mining vessel used its ore crusher to tear through an alien hull. A passenger ship turned its entertainment systems into jamming devices that blinded alien sensors. "They're turning everything into weapons," screamed Captain Yixmel as his ship was boarded by humans wielding welding torches and construction tools. But the real shock came when General Kresh realized that the human attacks weren't random. Every assault, every sacrifice, every desperate charge was part of a larger plan. The humans were learning from every battle, adapting faster than any species the aliens had ever fought. "Sir," his tactical officer said quietly, "the human civilians aren't just attacking randomly. They're targeting specific systems on our ships. It's like they know exactly where to hit us." "Impossible. How could they learn our ship design so quickly?" The answer came from Admiral Martinez's voice, broadcast across all frequencies. "General Kresh, every ship you've lost, we've studied. Every weapon you've fired, we've analyzed. Every tactic you've used, we've countered. You're not fighting a military general. You're fighting an entire species that learns from pain." On Earth's surface, the transformation was complete. Factories that once made cars now made tanks. Schools taught engineering alongside reading. Farmers grew crops designed to feed armies. Artists created propaganda that inspired billions. In a small town in Kansas, 12-year-old Jake Morrison worked alongside his grandmother, building ammunition for human fighters. His grandmother had lived through 3 wars and understood what was happening. "Grandma," Jake asked, "why do the aliens keep fighting if they're losing?" His grandmother's hands never stopped working as she answered, "Because, sweetie, they don't understand us yet. They think war is about ships and weapons. They don't know that when you threaten a human's family, you don't fight a soldier. You fight everyone who loves that family." In space, this lesson was being written in burning alien metal. General Kresh's fleet had been reduced to fewer than 400 ships, and more human vessels appeared every day. Worse, the humans were getting better at fighting with each battle. "Sir," his communications officer said desperately, "Admiral Zexthor is requesting immediate evacuation. His ship is being torn apart by human vessels using—" "Sir, they're using our own escape pods as weapons." Kresh closed his eyes. The humans had turned even their mercy into a weapon. They captured alien escape pods and launched them back at alien ships like missiles. "General," came a transmission from one of his captains, "we should retreat, regroup, plan a better strategy." But Kresh knew the truth that was breaking his spirit. There was no better strategy against humans. Every plan the aliens made, humans found a way to turn against them. Every advantage the aliens thought they had, humans found a way to overcome. "Sir," the tactical officer shouted, "massive energy readings from Earth. Something big is powering up." On Earth's surface, Admiral Martinez stood before her greatest secret. Deep beneath the planet's crust, human engineers had been building something that no alien species would have dared attempt. They had turned Earth itself into a weapon. "Admiral," Dr. Vasquez reported, "the planetary defense grid is fully charged. We can target any ship within 1,000,000 kilometers." Admiral Martinez nodded grimly. "General Kresh has one chance to surrender. After that, we show him what happens when you bring a fleet to fight a planet." The transmission that reached the alien fleet was simple. "General Kresh, you have exactly 10 minutes to begin your retreat from our solar system. After that, Earth stops playing defense." Kresh looked around his bridge at his terrified crew. In his 60 years of military service, he had conquered dozens of worlds. He had never retreated from any battle. But as he watched more human ships emerging from hidden bases throughout the solar system, he realized a terrible truth. This wasn't a battle anymore. This was an extinction event waiting to happen. "All ships," he said quietly, his voice heavy with defeat, "begin retreat to the outer system. Signal the council. Tell them." He paused, watching a human cargo ship ram through an alien cruiser's shields. "Tell them we need everything they have. Because these humans, they're not just defending their world. They're preparing to take ours." As the remaining alien ships limped away from Earth, Admiral Martinez allowed herself one moment of satisfaction. The first phase of humanity's counterattack was complete, but she knew the real war was just beginning. Council's last desperate move. The Galactic Council chamber had never seen such chaos. Panic filled the air as reports of General Kresh's defeat spread through the assembled representatives. For the first time in 10,000 years, the mighty council faced the possibility of losing a war. "This is impossible," screamed Ambassador Veltar, his tentacles writhing with fear. "One primitive world cannot defeat the combined might of 1,000 civilizations." Council leader Zixathara stood at the center of the chamber, her 6 arms trembling with rage. Around her, holographic displays showed the devastating losses. half the invasion fleet destroyed, the other half retreating in complete disorder. "Enough," she roared. "I will not allow these animals to make fools of us." In the back corner, old Thrushmore watched silently. His ancient eyes held no satisfaction at being right, only sadness for what was about to happen. Council leader General Voxhai stepped forward, his armor gleaming with medals from 100 conquered worlds. "I request permission to deploy the Judgment Protocol." The chamber fell dead silent. Every species in the galaxy knew about the Judgment Protocol, but it had never been used. It was the Council's most forbidden weapon. Planet killer so powerful it could turn entire worlds into dust. "You cannot be serious," whispered Ambassador Kethra from the Peaceful Healer caste. "The Judgment Protocol is banned by our own laws. It violates every treaty we have signed." Zixthara's laugh was cold and bitter. "Treaties, laws? These humans have shown us what they think of civilized behavior. They fight without honor. They turn children into weapon makers. They are a disease that must be burned out before it spreads." Thrushmore slowly stood up, his voice carrying across the silent chamber. "Council leader, if we use the Judgment Protocol, we become no better than the monsters we claim to fight." "Silence, old fool," Zixthara snapped. "Your warnings about humans have already cost us half our fleet. I will not listen to more of your weak philosophy." But other voices began to rise from the chamber. Ambassador Yilseth of the Scientific Union stood up. "This is genocide we're discussing. The complete destruction of an entire species. A species that refuses to know its place." Zixthara shot back. "Look at what they've done. They've turned civilian vessels into weapons. They've corrupted children into soldiers. They are not like us. Maybe that's why we're losing to them," Thrushmore said quietly. The voting began immediately. The chamber filled with red and green lights as species chose between retreat and total destruction. But this time, the vote was much closer. Votes for Judgment Protocol, 523 votes against 336. It was barely a majority, but it was enough. "The motion passes," Zixthara announced, her voice echoing through the chamber like a death sentence. "The Judgment Protocol is authorized. General Voxhai, you have full authority to eliminate the human threat by any means necessary." As the session ended, many representatives left the chamber in shame. They had just voted to destroy an entire world, something the Galactic Council had sworn never to do. But Zixthara felt only satisfaction. Let these humans see what happens when primitives challenge their betters. 3 days later, something emerged from the deepest vaults of the Council's military complex. The World Ender was not like other ships. It was a massive sphere of black metal 5 miles across, covered in weapons that could crack planets like eggs. It had been built during the Council's darkest period, when they faced a rebellion that threatened to tear the galaxy apart. The weapon had ended that war in a single day by turning the rebel homeworld into an asteroid field. After that, it had been locked away, too dangerous to ever use again. Until now. Captain Morketh stood on the bridge of the World Ender, looking at the reports from Earth's solar system. The human resistance had grown stronger every day. Their ships now patrolled far beyond their homeworld, hunting down alien vessels with the persistence of predators. "Sir," his weapons officer reported, "we are 3 hours from the human system. The judgment cannon is fully charged." Morketh nodded grimly. He had no love for this mission, but orders were orders. "Signal the fleet. All escorts are to maintain defensive positions. We go in fast, destroy the planet, and leave immediately." But as the World Ender entered Earth's solar system, they found something unexpected. The human fleet wasn't hiding. Every ship they had was waiting in formation around their homeworld, as if they knew what was coming. Admiral Martinez stood in her command bunker, watching the massive alien weapon approach on her screens. Around her, her staff worked with calm efficiency, but she could see the fear in their eyes. "Admiral," Colonel Park said quietly, "satellite readings confirm it. That ship has enough firepower to destroy our entire planet." "I know," Martinez replied. "Signal all human vessels. Execute Protocol 7. Protocol 7 was humanity's most desperate plan. If Earth faced total destruction, every human ship would sacrifice itself trying to stop the threat." Not to win, but to buy time for the evacuation ships hidden throughout the solar system. But as the human fleet charged toward the world ender, something incredible happened. Ships began appearing from everywhere. Not just from Earth's hidden bases, but from the asteroid belt, from the moons of Jupiter, from deep space installations that the aliens had never detected. "Impossible," whispered Captain Morketh. "Where are they all coming from?" The truth was that humanity had spent the last 70 years preparing for this exact moment. Every asteroid had a hidden base. Every moon had weapons platforms. Every piece of space debris hid human technology. The solar system itself had become a weapon. "Sir," the tactical officer yelled, "human ships numbering in the thousands. They're coming from every direction." But it was too late to retreat. The world ender was committed to its mission. "Fire the judgment cannon," Morketh ordered. The weapon that emerged from the alien ship was like nothing ever seen before. A beam of pure destruction that could melt through a planet's crust in seconds. It lanced out toward Earth, carrying enough energy to end human civilization forever. But the humans had one last surprise. Just as the beam was about to strike Earth, the planet's surface erupted with defensive fire. Not from scattered weapons, but from a single coordinated system. The entire planet had been turned into a massive shield generator. The judgment cannon struck Earth's shields, and something impossible happened. Instead of penetrating, the beam was absorbed, channeled through the planet's core, and redirected. What are they doing?" Morketh stammered. His answer came from Admiral Martinez's voice, broadcast across all frequencies. "Captain Morketh, you just made a terrible mistake. You tried to use our planet as a target. We're about to show you what happens when you give humans a full-power energy weapon to play with." The beam that erupted from Earth's surface was the alien judgment cannon's own power, but focused and amplified by human engineering. It struck the world-ender dead center and began tearing through its armor like paper. "Impossible!" Morketh screamed. "They turned our own weapon against us." As his ship began to break apart around him, Morketh realized the horrible truth. The humans hadn't just survived the Council's ultimate weapon. They had made it their own. The world ender exploded in a flash of light that could be seen from the outer planets. With it died the Council's last hope of easy victory, but more importantly, the galaxy's most powerful species had just learned that humans didn't just defend themselves from overwhelming force. They found ways to make that force their own. On Earth, Admiral Martinez watched the explosion fade from her screens. Around her, her staff cheered and celebrated. But Martinez knew the truth. The real war was just beginning. Because now the Galactic Council knew that humans weren't just dangerous when cornered. They were dangerous when they got angry. And Earth was very, very angry.